Us in studio this morning is Jelena Cox, retired library assistant and author of not just one, but many more books. Good morning, Jelena, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show this morning. And thank you so much for taking the time out, because if it's one thing we know, being an author, you can be pretty occupied.
Absorbed.
To say the least. Now, one of the things that definitely struck me before we even get into the book is the fact that you are a retired library assistant.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you've always had a love for books.
I've always been around books. And yes, I do love books. Yes.
So how would you say books have impacted your life so far?
They have been an inspiration. They have guided me along a route of communications and connections, because working in the library, I started reading to children because I worked in those days, Queen's Park East. That's a long time ago. And we did have like Saturday story time and that kind of thing. So I have been reading to children even before I had my children. So
That's beautiful.
yeah, so I've always been surrounded by books, really.
Wonderful. And of course, I know with this book and some others, you were actually part of the Read Me TT, if I'm not mistaken, bedtime stories for children during the COVID-19 pandemic. But before we get to that, let's talk about the difference between writing a book in 2006 and writing a book during the pandemic. You've done 10 books.
Yes.
And this particular one, A Pan for Christmas, if I'm not mistaken, would have been done during the pandemic, correct?
Yes, it was. I don't think for me, personally, it was any different. For probably a new writer, or yeah, it would be different, because I have not been like outgoing for a long time, you know, so I had buckled into writing as a hobby. My number one hobby was crochet, and when I retired, I told my daughter, I said, if anybody asks you, what am I doing now? You can tell them I'm writing.
Wonderful.
Yes. So writing before the pandemic and writing during the pandemic is not much of a difference for me, you know?
Yeah.
The content of my story, yes. But me as a writer in those two phases, no.
Understood.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the content of your story. A Pan for Christmas is something that all of us, of course, will be able to, you know, have our heartstrings tugged just a little bit. It's a part of our culture. And you know, Trinis, we love Christmas. Is that something that inspired you to write this?
Okay. I love Christmas, December Christmas.
I love the fact that we have to specify, because, you know, July, Christmas in July and June, that happens big with something.
I'm a December Christmas lover. So, A Pan for Christmas, it follows another book where this young man, 10 years old, he was there in a previous book called The Naughty Angel. Yes, and that's where the pandemic content started.
Okay.
You know, because you remember, for children during the pandemic, there was the wash your hands and sing the birthday song twice and that kind of thing. So those kinds of issues went into The Naughty Angel, where he's washing his hands and singing the birthday song, and this little angel appears, and he doesn't know it's an angel, you know. And she's wondering, well, whose birthday it is, you know, kind of thing. But we don't want to get into that. We want to come into the Pan for Christmas. So this follows that particular book. And this book is about our struggles, our trying to manage as children and adults during the pandemic.
Interesting.
So that Gabriel, he had asked his dad for a pan, and that happened before the COVID. And then came the COVID. And I suppose for a lot of children, it might have been a holiday.
Yeah.
But Gabriel's parents laid down the rules. All right, you want a pan? You're always harassing me for this pan. We're in COVID times now. But you're not going to get this pan unless.
That right?
Unless you continue, you do your online classes, you continue studying a little extra, you must do your homework and stuff like that.
Well, definitely things that we can all relate to in some form or fashion, regardless of whether or not it was during the pandemic. So share with us, where can we get this book, Jelena?
This book right now is available on Amazon.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So only in soft copy, no hard copy. Well, we have a hard copy here, viewers, as you can see on the table.
Yes.
So for those who, you know, still prefer the physical book itself.
You can get, that's where you will get
on
it.
Amazon?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Because it's not in our bookstores as yet.
As yet. Keyword.
Yes.
As yet. Do you have a timeline of when we'll be able to get them in bookstores?
No.
Okay.
Because it has been a struggle for me so far getting my books into the bookstore.
Is this book self-published?
Yes.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Yes. Some of my books are available at Nalis. And as for bookstores, no. I've had bookstore connections where they would take the books on consignment.
Yes.
But they won't buy the books and stock it for sale.
Right.
You know, so this is what I want to happen next. I want the booksellers to dare to buy my books.
Definitely. And you know
and
what?
Put it in your bookshops.
Definitely. And we're going to manifest that into reality for you. This is incredible. Of course, celebrating Steelpan Month right here on the Now Morning Show and throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Jelena Cox, thank you for being with us this morning. It has been an absolute pleasure. And thanks, of course, for keeping our culture alive and looking after our children.
Thank you very much for having me.
It has been a pleasure. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up on this Jam Pack Friday on Now. We'll be back in a few.